Hi guys, Samira here. So I'm back with another oil pastel tutorial. Before we get started, please make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you won't miss out my upcoming videos. For this painting, I'll be using only 6 colors and they are light purple violet, sapphire blue, periwinkle blue, black, white and mauve in the order from right to left as shown in the picture. I'm using the Mungyo oil pastels here. Now if you have a different set of pastels, don't worry, you can just play around with the colors to get the right color. Before doing the final painting, I experimented this a number of times with different techniques and this is what worked for me the best. However, feel free to try different techniques and if you do, then send me the pictures onto my Instagram account. I would love to see them. This painting is inspired by the popular acrylic painting called Midnight Raven by Painting with Jane. However, I felt that painting it with oil pastels while retaining the texture in the background was quite challenging. But don't worry, if you follow this technique, you will end up with similar results because it is tried and tested a number of times. So as you can see, for the first layer, I applied the oil pastels in concentric circles, starting from the lightest color at the center circle and the darkest color in the outermost circle. However, it was only in the second layer that I applied the white color. For the second layer, I was applying the oil pastel with a little more pressure to get an even thick coat of color. Now comes the fun / challenging part, which is blending. I would highly suggest using your fingers to blend rather than any other blending tools because you will know how much pressure you need to apply to get the desired effect. For the third layer, I am blending using the oil pastel itself. And for this, I am keeping the pastel at a 90-degree angle to the paper because it will put less pressure on the paper. Remember that as you increase the number of layers, you need to decrease the pressure that you put on the oil pastel. Otherwise, the previous layers get scraped off. So for the third layer, I am carefully gliding the pastel onto the paper while making sure that the colors are blended and the edges of the circles are blurred. I haven't used all the 6 colors in the third layer. I've just used the periwinkle blue, that is the color of the second concentric circle, and applied it all over the rest of the circles to get a nice blend of colors. However, the other colors I just used them at the edges. And again, I am blending with my fingers. When blending with fingers, keep a cloth beside you and wipe off the pigment from the fingers onto the cloth, otherwise the pigments of your finger will transfer onto the areas of the lighter color and spoil it. Here's the interesting part. I wanted a cloudy, slightly concentric texture on my background to show that the sky was deep and it was expanding into nothingness. So I took my white oil pastel and just drew some spiral pattern in the whole painting. And to create some shadows, I used the darker pastels here and there and I blended all of that with my fingers. Do not overblend because you might lose the texture that you just created. Again, I brightened the center with the white oil pastel and did the same process that I just did before. That is drawing the concentric lines, that is the highlights and the shadows in the sky. Although I created some dark shadow in the lighter area, I minimized it by applying the lighter pastel at the end because I wasn't happy with the shadow. To make the center, that is the moon, appear as if it is bright and luminous, I am blurring the white intense portion with my finger and reapplying some white oil pastel again over it. I've done this a couple of times until I was happy with the final result. And now that the background is done, I am drawing the branches. Since we have applied 3 to 4 layers of oil pastel, the 4th layer is going to be very lightly pigmented. In order to intensify the color, I scraped off the previous layers in this branch and as well as in the owl and reapplied the black oil pastel over it. You can also intensify the color using black acrylic paint. I made sure to scrape only in the insides of the branch and not around the edges. I gave the highlights using white and light purple violet. In a similar manner, I drew the other branches. Once completed, I took off the masking tape. When I woke up the next morning, I felt that the circle surrounding the moon was very light and it wasn't blended properly. So I darkened it a little bit from the outside to the inside. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye!